Hello everyone! In this episode, I've created a recipe just for you hot and spicy lovers. Hot and spicy stir-fried beef, or 麻辣小炒牛肉. Feel free to tweak the recipe to your personal tastes and the ingredients available to you. One of the ingredients you'll need is a hot and spicy soup base, or 麻辣火锅底料. Traditional versions consist of beef tallow and various spices to create a distinctive flavor profile beloved by the people of Sichuan and Chongqing. Some brands come in individual packets like this one, while others come in bigger blocks. You may cut the portion you need for each recipe. Since the soup base is well preserved, you can wrap any leftovers in cling wrap and store it in an airtight container in the fridge, and it will last for at least a month. No matter which brand you use, this soup base does not take well to high heat storage, so store it in a cool, dry place. We'll start by preparing the side ingredients. We need 100 grams of screw peppers, 100 grams of red onions, 2 tablespoons of Sichuan peppercorns, 10 grams of dried chilies pre-cut into pieces, 30 grams of ginger, 20 grams of garlic, 10 grams of fresh bird's eye chilies, and finally some wild mountain peppers. They usually come pickled in glass jars, and this will add some refreshing acidity to this hot and spicy dish. Start by cutting the screw peppers diagonally into relatively thin slices. You may also use green bell peppers, but the skins of screw peppers are thinner and offer a better texture for this dish. You may also add red bell peppers for an additional pop of color. Then, cut the red onions into small wedges and remove the root ends. You may also use yellow onions, but I like red onions in this dish for their fragrance and color contrast. Then, separate the outer layers from the inner layers until everything is in an appropriate size. You may also slice the onions if you have big ones. If you want to use spring onions for this dish, add the white parts towards the end of cooking to preserve their texture, and keep the green parts to serve as a refreshing element. For the ginger, you may leave the skin on if it's clean, but I've decided to cut off the skin for a reason you'll see later. We'll cut the ginger into slices, and then cut at a diagonal for diamond-shaped pieces. You may also use young ginger for a refreshing taste, but keep it separate from everything else as you would have to add it at the very end of cooking. We'll also cut the fresh bird's eye chilies diagonally into a few pieces. Keep the seeds in there for extra spiciness, or remove them to reduce the spiciness. Pick out some pickled wild mountain peppers according to how much acidic taste you want in the dish. We'll simply cut them into small pieces. Crush and peel the garlic cloves. Crushing makes them much easier to peel. Then, mince the garlic roughly. Mincing too finely will make it less aromatic and more likely to burn. We'll set all the side ingredients aside. We'll now prepare 200 grams of flank steak. Cut it in half and identify the direction of the grain. It is extremely important to slice against the grain or perpendicular to the grain for tenderness. You may also use New York strip or tenderloin. If you can, avoid very tough cuts like eye of round. We'll now take slices of about 3 mm thickness at a diagonal to increase the surface area. Bear in mind that your first slice will be thicker due to the diagonal cut. If you have extra fat on your steak, you may cut it up and use it later. This is the ideal thickness for sliced stir-fry beef. Don't forget to cut your thicker initial slices to ensure an even thickness. It is better to buy a whole steak and slice it yourself than to buy pre-sliced beef, as it will be fresher and you can choose a steak that is free of tendons and has better marbling. Here's an example of pre-sliced beef. Not only does it lack marbling, it's also sliced too thickly and will be likely tougher, especially if not marinated. We'll now rinse the beef in ginger and onion water to remove the blood and impurities. You can use ginger skins and the papery outer layers of onions just below the skins to reduce wastage. You may also add cooking wine if you wish. The blood is what causes beef to have a foul smell, so it must be rinsed off. Drain the beef and squeeze out all the water. We're now ready to marinate the beef. For flavoring, add 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of dark soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. We'll then add half of an egg white and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. You may also use potato starch. This will make the beef extra tender by preventing the muscle fibers from seizing up during cooking. Mix the marinade into the beef until it has absorbed all of the marinade and becomes slightly sticky in your hand. Finally, add 1 tablespoon of oil to the beef to prevent the slices from sticking together in the wok later. We'll now chop up 20 grams of the spicy soup base. You'll want to save this step for last, since again, spicy soup base is not very heat resistant. I live in a hot and humid country, so it would melt really quickly if I were to leave it out, so I left it in the fridge until I was ready to cut it. Mix the oil into the beef and we're ready to cook. Render the beef fat in the wok. If you don't have beef fat, you can simply use oil. Once the beef fat is rendered out, toast your dried chilies and Sichuan peppercorns and your chosen cooking fat over medium-high heat. Make sure the chilies and peppercorns are nicely toasted but not burnt. Once nicely toasted, we'll set them aside. Turn the heat back up to medium-high. Once the wok is hot, add a good amount of oil. We'll use this oil to cook the marinated beef slices as well as to grease the wok. Once the oil begins to smoke slightly, turn on the exhaust hood and add your marinated beef. Do not stir the beef immediately, let it sear for about 30 seconds in the oil. Afterwards, stir the beef into the oil gently and let it cook for about 1 minute or until it's just no longer pink. Drain the beef without taking too much oil. We'll now drain some of the excess oil. You may save it for cooking other dishes, but leave a bit of oil in the wok. But if you leave too much, the dish will be greasy. Turn the heat back up to medium-high. Once the oil is hot, add in the garlic, ginger, and chilies and stir-fry until fragrant. Watch out for the garlic and chilies burning. You might cough or sneeze due to the pungency of these ingredients. If you're sensitive, you can wear a mask for this step. We'll then add in our onions and screw peppers and turn the heat up to high. The goal is to cook out the raw flavor but still maintain a bit of a crunchy texture. You may toss the wok to distribute the oil evenly over the ingredients. You may also heat at the side of the wok, which will get hotter faster, and stir the ingredients into it to improve the wok heat. Add the beef back in. There's some oil in the beef, but that's okay because our wok was getting a bit dry anyway. Reduce the heat to low after you've finished stirring these ingredients. This is important for the next step. See that extra oil in the wok? We're going to add our spicy soup base into it and allow it to melt gently in the oil until it turns red. This step must be done on low heat to prevent burning the soup base. Otherwise, it will impart a bitter flavor to the dish. Once again, you can toss the wok to distribute the seasoning evenly. You can certainly turn the heat back up to high at this stage. Add your toasted chilies and Sichuan peppercorns back in and mix them into the ingredients until they gain the aroma. Add a tablespoon of Shaoxing wine from the side of the wok. This will make the dish even more fragrant as some aromatic compounds are more soluble in alcohol. If using additional ingredients like white spring onions and young ginger, this is also a good time to add them. Once the alcohol is cooked out, add the seasoning. We'll just use a pinch of white pepper and a teaspoon of chicken powder. There is no need for salt as the soup base is salty enough. Reduce the heat to low and give it one final toss to distribute the seasoning evenly. You may also add green spring onions and coriander at this stage if you like. Drain the ingredients onto a serving plate. And here we have our final product. A super spicy and fragrant stir-fried beef dish is ready. I hope you enjoyed this recipe.